After a star-making performance over the weekend, what do we do next with Swerve Strickland? We're going to talk about Full Gear, his performance, and more in just a second, so stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Oh, yo. This is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, always joined by my trios team. Oh, someone looks a bit different. We've got Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. And no, It's not Gerard Bonner with a shave. This is TK Trinidad, the lady that is in charge and the head of WWT Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling channel on the planet. I like the fact that I remembered that.
Yep.
Nice.
Hey,
nice.
How are you doing?
We are good. How are you? How has your weekend been? And how have you found all the wrestling that we were about to talk about today?
Oh my gosh, yeah, the weekend was crazy. Today is great. You know, we're actually, this week is going to be great. We have a couple interviews loading up. So yeah, can't complain. And it's going to be Thanksgiving here, so.
Oh yeah, that's on Thursday, right?
Yeah, nice little vacation, Black Friday, all the things.
All that good stuff, all that spending. I won't be doing, but yeah, everyone else will.
I don't think anybody be doing. I don't know about y'all, but we about to head into a recession, so I'm saving my money.
That's the truth. That's the truth. So we had AEW Full Gear this past weekend. I was saying to Mex just before we started, I think that pay-per-view was the epitome of the weird and wonderful all-in-one show. Mex, give me your thoughts on the show in general before we talk about the specific matches we want to talk about today.
Yeah, it's a good show. It was really good. I feel like Full Gear is one of their, marquee shows, despite them adding a pay-per-view in every month at this point. Full Gear is one of the OGs, if you like. And yeah, we had a lot of good wrestling up and down the card. Of course, right in the middle of the card was the excellent death match, which we'll get to. And, just fun stuff in terms of Moxley and Cassidy, which they got us reinvested in, something we literally just saw like 2 months ago, maybe, or something like that. The tag team ladder match was great as well. And then we had the sports entertainment field main event angle, which has, competed with the death match to try and steal the headlines, but the death match has just literally ran away with it, in kind of cementing one of these guys as a true AEW star and almost propelling the other, which we'll get to a stage now where he can't be doubted. It's undeniable. And like we kind of recognized from online perception, online chatter over the last 3-4 months, he is in the queue to become AEW champion now. So yeah, it's a good weekend all in all.
Before we get into the deathmatch specifically, TK, what was your favorite moments or the things that stood out for you when it came to Full Gear?
Definitely not the deathmatch. The deathmatch was good. Like, I definitely agree that the deathmatch was great for Swerve. I don't like blood, so the deathmatch for me personally, it was like, I'm Gucci. But definitely, like, the women's events were really great. And I mean, to follow it up by with Raw, with seeing so many women on Raw, just personally, just seeing where we've come as far as that's been a great thing. But yeah, it was a great event. Like, I believe it was MJF who said it, not this scrum, but the last scrum, where he's saying there's with these pay-per-views as of late for AEW, it's different wrestling for different folks. So for me, even though I don't like, the death match of it all, it was only one match. It wasn't the whole card where everybody's like bleeding all over the place. So, and then, you look at the stark difference between that match and the main event, two different styles, two types of storytelling, stuff like that. So it was a little bit different for everybody. And I feel like everybody won. And even with that, I brought one of my coworkers, she brought her daughter who is 7. She loved the death match. She was like, and me and her mom were like, yeah, like, we're good. So I think AEW, and, I conveniently, that's when I decided to go and get a drink, go do that. So I think for AEW, it's one of those things where with the last 2 pay-per-views, there's a little bit for everybody. So it was a great show. I you know, personally, because I don't like to be outside like that, it could have been a little bit shorter, but you know, it's not for me. I'm not the one who's, you know, dropping a couple thousand all over the place. So, you know, I understand that, and I make my adjustments for my life accordingly. So it was a great match.
For real. As I said, man, it was the weird and wonderful. And then, as you rightly said, TK, you know, there was so much variation in terms of the styles of matches and all the rest of it. There was actually something for everyone, which is a very, very good thing, of course. You know, we saw the confirmation of the superstar signing of WrstlXtra to AEW now as well. We saw Julia Hart become the new TBS champion. I think that whole little thing is, I was so happy. Apart from the deathmatch, that was probably one of my favorite moments of the whole show.
Likewise, yeah.
For real. Then you had, of course, the 4-way tag team ladder match as well. We'll talk about that as well a little bit later. Ricky Starks and Big Bill retaining. Crazy match, crazy moments. Moxley and Cassidy, of course. And then the craziness between MJF, Adam Cole, and Switchblade. The one question I had the whole time was, if MJF can't wrestle, why isn't one-legged man in crutches and a cast being able to wrestle? Anyway.
You were the only one. His wife was asking that question too. So
the craziest thing. But going on to the death match, of course, between Swerve and Hangman Adam Page. Mex, I'm gonna go to you again for this one. Just give us a rundown of what happened, what we had to endure as viewers, and of course the outcome. And let's get into that as well.
You can't expect me to give you a rundown of that madness, but you know, it was even presented in a big way. Like we've come to learn the days after that, Swerve's attire dedicated to the late Wyndham Rotunda, the Fiend character. He had a WrestleMania-esque entrance with the dancers and Prince Nana coming out and doing his thing. Hangman Adam Page wasted no time. You know, this is someone that's wanted to get his hands on him since he entered his house. He came out, no entrance, just straight to work. He's not in any kind of gear. He just looks like he's just backed off his top and just ran down to the ring. So that was great. That is typical kind of street fight settings, deathmatch settings. And he got straight to work with the buckshot lariat. Came in with the staple gun. Like the staple gun thing was absolutely crazy. Like wild. That's one thing I don't think I've ever really seen in wrestling, and the amount of staples, and they were really going for it to the point where Swerve he wasn't affected, took the staple gun eventually and was doing it to himself. What other
spots? Part I didn't see. I think I was closing my eyes during that part. I didn't see that part.
Yeah, and then it was a symmetry of when Swerve invaded the house and ripped the kid's painting off the fridge, then he took that painting and stapled it to Swerve's face. Swerve had a pile driver to Hangman on the barricade, the safety rail. Obviously, they brought out the chains and the chairs and the tables and the glass that Swerve brought out, that 50 onto Hangman with the glass. Yeah, the barbed wire, the spot of Hangman drinking Swerve's blood, lying under him. Like
wasn't that a health thing? That wasn't the thing I was wondering too. Like,
yeah, that I mean, each to their own, and some people think that was too much. At that point, I lost my mind. I was literally cheering. I was so excited. Like, this is crazy. I'm a bloodthirsty wrestling fan. That is immediately. So that for me was like, yes, like, and then you know there was parts of it that when I was on stream, I done a watch along with wrestlings for it. We were saying like it's like emanating like the Passion of Christ, where they're using the barbed wire as like the crown and everything like that. There was one place where Swerve like whipped Hangman with the thing, and you saw the barbed wire go across his head and his face. Like it was absolutely mad. Cage came in, Brian Cage, and it was like, I you know, you expect it because Swerve's a heel, but we don't need to ruin this match with interference. Like this is brilliant right now. but Cage didn't play like too much into the finish or anything like that, which was all right. Prince Nana went through the table with a dead eye from the apron, and then we saw the infamous kind of choke spot, which I had said last week. This is a black man and a white man. Let's leave the chains and the choking spots out of it. Like, I don't want to see anyone choke anybody. Like, especially because we saw it earlier this year in the Revolution match. But I guess that's exactly what they mirrored with the finish. That's how he got Moxley. So Swerve used that exact method to, you know, take the air out of Hangman. And then obviously Hangman eventually passed out, didn't answer the 10 count. And Swerve comes away looking like an absolute animal, like, you know, just propelled into the stratosphere. If you had any doubt that this guy wasn't ready, he's here. And it's one of them ones where we've seen him do violence before and all of that kind of stuff. This was a whole nother level. Pretty much an instant classic. And I've called it on my channel because I had to. The next match that followed, that tag match with Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho and Young Bucks, we were all on the street. We were all just sitting back in our chairs, just like taking a deep breath of what we had just seen before. Like, it took us so long to get into that match. And then, yeah, I had previously recorded in a week that it almost reminded me of Triple H versus Mankind way back in the day. Like, I think the Hell in a Cell match. And for me, even as a child then, I just knew, like, Triple H has become somebody with this feud. You see what I mean? He was a hated heel, pushed relatively well anyway. But at that point, it's just like this person has now crossed over to the next, you know, grade of wrestler sort of thing. And yeah, that's exactly what Swerve done on Saturday night. It was terrific performance from both men. Like, there was no losers in that match. But Swerve he's arrived. It's official now.
For sure, for sure. We know that the Texas Deathmatch is Hangman's match. He's never lost until that point. We've been asking the question on this show for the last maybe 3 or 4 weeks. What's next for Swerve? You know, he needs to win this feud. What happens if he does, if he doesn't, and all the rest of it. TK, what are your thoughts now in terms of what happens with Swerve? What should happen with him? What are you expecting to happen with him? What are your thoughts on just what the next steps are for Swerve in AEW?
I mean, not obviously, but I think you're referencing it. It's kind of, and a lot of people were saying it online, it's like they've made him the made man. Like, you know, he's the next guy. And if he's not, then, like, you know, we call him the fake TK on Women's Wrestling Talk. You know, give us a better storyline, which I don't think he can. So it's just a matter of not if, but when he's going to become champion, and how it all comes to play, and where and what championship or what title he's gonna have. But there's no way, like, if this time in 3 months Swerve is no longer on TV or you know, back down to the starting blocks, then it's just gonna be like, wait, what? That was all for naught,
right?
So, you know, we definitely, you know, the championship, some title run is going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. So I'm looking forward to that, because we already see the type of story that they've had. Like, even with this match and leading up to it, it was amazing. So now it's like, what's going to happen next? What's going to be, I'm like, and I'm not for sure, because there's no clear-cut path as far as, you know, okay, well, it's gonna be MJF. Like, what's that gonna look like, and how's that storyline gonna look? So, you know, we'll see what's gonna happen. That's exciting. The exciting part, as far as just not knowing for sure, because you know, you watch some wrestling stuff and it's just like, okay, they're gonna turn on each other, gonna do this, they're gonna do that, and it happens, and you know, we're satisfied for a moment that we are right, but then it's like, oh, okay, so you know. That just figuring that stuff out.
It's interesting. So earlier today, I saw I believe it was Haven Ray. Shout out Haven, who does reactions and stuff to all sorts of stuff. And she was asking the question, what's more important to wrestling fans? Is it storyline, or is it a 5-star match? And she also mentioned that, you know, at the moment, most people are saying that WWE kind of are winning when it comes to storylines. AEW more so winning when it comes to matches. But every now and again, both companies kind of get both of them right. And for me, this is that exact same thing. The story leading up to it had us invested the whole way, and then we had the match itself. Mex, at any point, do you believe that we will revisit Swerve and Hangman? Will Hangman come back for Swerve anytime soon, or is that probably later down the line? Does Swerve move on to someone else?
Well, this is what some people are asking for, because obviously we've seen a great first match between them at Wrestle Dream, and now we've seen this excellent match, and it's almost like people want more. And for me personally, I'm thinking, do we do this again so soon? Can we top this? You see what I mean? And for me, if we can't necessarily top this, at least leave it alone for a minute, like leave it, let it manifest, and you know, we come back around to it. Maybe by then Swerve is, or someone is, a champion. And then we come back around to, you know, these two sort of thing. It's, you know, like TK was saying, what is the direction now? That is the most worrying thing. They've put this guy on a pedestal, whether they meant it or not at this point, and he's here. Like, for me, there's one of two things. He literally wins the international championship. He's got previous with Orange Cassidy. He wins that literally in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think. Like, you do it relatively quickly, while, you know, to capitalize on the momentum that he's on. I expect him maybe not to be on TV this week, you know, recuperating and whatever they want to kind of paint it as. But, you know, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think he has to win the international championship at the least. Long term, obviously, everyone is saying the AEW World title. People are calling for MJF's head right now. They weren't happy with the main event, the overbooked nature of it, just the whole, what MJF has maybe become is we loved him as a heel. It was cool as a baby face, and now it's just a bit too much. Like, even the tears in the media scrum, I was like, really, bro? But
I don't know. Some of it felt genuine.
It did, but at the same time, I'm thinking, is this my world champion here, crying, eating pickles? Like, bro.
I mean, I feel in today's society that would be toxic masculinity. So I'm just
100% it would be, but that's what I want from my world champion, you know. So it's one of them things. I don't deny it, but yeah, I just feel like, even if you've done something like, maybe World's End's too soon. Maybe by January, there'll probably be a January pay-per-view. If Swerve is to win it, or maybe by Revolution, if Swerve is to win it, he can have a nice little run. I think we're pretty much guaranteed for a Will Ospreay championship win in August at all in. So even if Swerve had it from Feb to August, I don't think that's you know, the end of the world or anything like that. We don't need, not everyone needs a year reign or whatever the case is. So yeah, it's really time to cash in on the momentum and, you know, use Swerve as a vehicle. I think last time you were on, TK, you mentioned how tapped in with the culture he is, and in terms of, you know, doing that side of things for AEW, giving a different kind of mainstream appeal. Like, tap in on this. I saw TMZ reported on this match. Like, let's not waste time and like make this guy a star, like either through the international title or propelling him up to the world title sooner rather than later.
There's another avenue we possibly could go down, which is the Continental Continental Classic. A very interesting thing that I saw as well, actually. Eddie Kingston is already part of this whole thing. Eddie Kingston, currently the Ring of Honor champion and the New Japan strong open weight champion as well. I've seen talk that he's defending both titles every single time he wrestles. So then the eventual outcome will be whoever wins this whole league will end up with the ROH New Japan Strong Open Weight and the new AEW Continental Championship.
Yeah.
Could Swerve be that guy to come out as that Triple Crown champion?
For me personally, it's too mid-card. Like, first of all, if they put Swerve in that tournament for me with Danielson, Andrade that they've mentioned already, Eddie Kingston I don't mind because he's a champion. Like, and then we fill the names Omega and people of that ilk. Like, respectfully, on Full Gear they put Mark Briscoe in there, and I said, you guys said this is 12 of the best in AEW, so respectfully, I don't deem this guy as one of the 12 best. He's very entertaining, but Yeah, so I don't know if I want Swerve in there, especially if he's just going to be in there as fodder and not win it at the end.
Right.
And even if he does win it at the end, what does this Triple Crown mean? Because it sounds very Owen Hart tournament-ish to me at this point, if it's not going to be the best of the best.
Yeah, and I think you also said too with and eventually MJF is going to have to, you know, drop. He's not going to have it, you know, it's not one of going to be those like, you know, having the title for years. So, you know, who is the when that does happen, who is the person that would be ideal? And, you know, I think Swerve is.
He feels as though he is, but then at the same time, as much as MJF beat Switchblade Jay White on at Full Gear, he's still in the picture. For me, he still, you know, has enough about him to be, you know, good enough, perceived enough to be the AEW World Champion. You've got Samoa Joe breathing down his neck. For me as well, I was just waiting for some kind of moment or indication to show that Adam Cole's been playing MJF this whole time in some way. So that's there as well. Does Swerve become champion above those three? And it feels difficult to make that happen in my mind. It's not to say it's impossible, but they have to trust and put so much more into Swerve than the other three in order for me to think, all right, Swerve is the next guy. Yes, they're building him and making us believe that he can be the champion. But for me, is he the next champion? I don't believe he is, but that's just me.
I hear you, but like, it's one of them ones where you've already put in groundwork to propel this guy. Now, admittedly, they may have not thought that, you know, they might have just wanted to bring him to this level, but through what he's done over the weekend, he's here now. You see what I mean? So it's like, what do we do, sort of thing. Samoa Joe's not winning. He's not beating MJF. As much as I wouldn't mind a Samoa Joe title run, Samoa Joe's not gonna win it. Jay White would have been a good option. I think when looking back on it with hindsight, they've spent too long with Jay White and MJF.
Definitely.
Like they told that story for the best part of nearly 3 months. Jay White held the belt physically for 8 weeks. They kind of gave us Jay White as champion before he was actually champion. And then Adam Cole, we don't know when he's going to return with this ankle injury stuff. So yeah, I'm with you that I don't see them making Swerve the next champion. However, at the same time, I'm struggling to understand, well, where do we go from here, sort of thing. Like he's surely the top heel in the company right now. So I mean, Orange Cassidy is someone he can take out. Eddie Kingston's another popular baby face. You're gonna have to just keep feeding him high-level baby faces at this point. And then we're still going to keep knocking on the door asking, so when are you going to make him champion then?
True.
And here's the other question, and it's more of a statement. Out of the people that you talked about, who was TMZ talking about this past weekend? And the reason I say this, and, you know, wrestling purists, you know, never agree with me when I say this type of stuff. It's like, at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we want these promotions to do all the things. Bring in the big superstars, do the pyro, do all this. All that stuff requires money, right? And again, I'm going to reference it. Inflation's happening. So wrestlers are no longer wrestling for, you know, peanuts. So with that being said, you kind of want to put something on somebody that is going to attach to mainstream media that people can get behind, where they don't necessarily watch the product all the time, but they'll be willing to put somebody like a Swerve on certain channels and stuff like that, certain radio stations, all that stuff. And now it's going to get to a wider audience. And now you're looking at merch. And now you're like, okay, well, I might check it out because I saw him on this show. Unfortunately, you know, Jay White and Samoa Joe, they're not necessarily moving the needle mainstream media wise. Because, and the reason I can say that with confidence is because I'm often in the mainstream media, and when people talk about wrestling, they're still talking about Hulk Hogan and The Rock.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, I was at a indie show for Ariane Andrew in Los Angeles, and it was in a certain area. It was an area that was very new to wrestling, and people are still talking about China. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you want to definitely please the people who are constantly there, who are paying for the pay-per-views, who are paying for the subscriptions, etc. But you also want to bring in the new audience, even if the new audience is only there for a period of time, because there's a certain amount of people who came in for Ronda. You know what I'm saying? So and you see how many people showed up for her when she did the indie show, and how many people popped when she was on ROH. So you know, I think in the grand scheme of it, even if it's for a short time, like you referenced, it might be good. I don't know, during Black History Month. Maybe not. Actually, no, don't do that, because then it's going to seem like it's placating. So don't do that. Don't do that. That was a terrible idea. Don't take that. But I think it might be beneficial because I just saw how mainstream media did pop when Swerve's name was in the picture, and then they started looking up, and then they saw how he does music, and then, you know, he's very much a part of the culture and how he carries himself. I said this, I think, last time I was on the show when I saw him at the Scrum in Seattle. There was just something about him that said champion. And I don't know, it was like the mentality or just how he carried himself or how he interacted with Tony or how he interacted with the media. There's just something about him that said champion, and that said that I could see him on like Good Morning America talking about whatever. And people would resonate with that. So, you know, again, it's not if, but when, and then how would it make sense?
And I completely agree with you when you ask, you know, about the comparisons between the same guys that I've mentioned. It's only Swerve, as far as I know, as well as MJF himself, who is the champion, but all these other contenders. Swerve is the only person that I've seen on any type of talk show in this year. None of the others have been on anything else, as far as I'm aware, at least anyway. Then, as you said, you know, you've got these connections with the likes of Rick Ross and, you know, other names in hip hop and whatnot. And for me as well, people, you know, wrestling fans forget this all the time. When you ask about, like, you know, people to give you their Mount Rushmore, they'll name all these people and all the rest of it. And for me, when I name mine, the one thing that is the main difference or the biggest factor is how they've crossed over into the mainstream. How much influence have they made on the mainstream? So, you know, the guys like, for me, it would be the guys like The Rock, Stone Cold, you know, Hulk Hogan, dare I say it. But, you know, and someone like The Undertaker, for example, household names and stuff like that. Because when you speak to a wrestling fan now, those are the names that you're gonna hear, or not even wrestling fans now, but people that probably used to watch wrestling, probably even never watch wrestling, but they still know at least one of those four names. So for me, if Swerve can make you think that that's a possibility, that alone should be right. Let's stick the rocket on this guy and we're shooting to the moon. So I completely agree with that as well. But at the same time, because of the state of AEW and based on very recent history of AEW, we had a very similar thing with a lady who is known as Jade Cargill. Where is she now? Not even in the company anymore. When she was absolutely killing it at her peak, killing numbers, getting more views on her when she was on TV than Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega. What then happened? Nothing. When it should have, could have, they didn't do anything. And there may be some kind of difference in the case that, you know, Swerve has more experience as a wrestler. Dare I say, even him being a male might help his chances compared to Jade. But at the same time, I'm looking at this thinking, right, this is what I've seen done before. What makes me think that they're going to do it differently with Swerve? And unfortunately, because again, he's a black man, I'm like, is that going to play into it as well? That's why I'm still asking the question and comparing the other guys to Swerve, and like, is he going to be the next one though?
Oh, I disagree with that, because Jade was in a totally different position. Jade was just starting out, and there's a lot of things that were in play when Jade just started out, because I think it was like at the top of the pandemic or something like that. like when she was just coming in at the top of that pandemic.
Yeah.
Don't and not even to take away what AEW did, but we are also in the middle of BLM. There's that. And I don't think that was one of the reason why things played out. Like Jade, just look wise, and I think a lot of people, I think it was Shawn Michaels who said it when she came to WWE. Look wise, she looks like a superhero. Period. Like she could be green or whatever. Like it had nothing to do with color. It's just her genetics is. And if you look up her brother is equally as superhero-esque. So look why she has that. But also let's also be honest. Her learning career was on TV.
Yeah, of course.
Swerve has been in the game for a long period of time, so it's just two totally different levels. And at this point, and this is what I've been saying as of recently, because I too am the one who's like, I want to see more Black wrestlers, I want to see more female wrestlers, etc. But at this point, in America, I can't speak for the UK. There's like African Americans make about 13% of the population. So it's like, how many more Black wrestlers do you want to see? Right. And it's just like, yes, I definitely agree. There was a point where we were struggling, and they were using the stereotypes and stuff like that. And we're still working at that for equality. I'm not a believer in, I don't think anything in life is equal, but that's a whole nother show with that. But I don't think it's going to have to do with his race. I think it's going to be how it makes sense, because being in that audience, it was just kind of one of those things where it's like everybody was into the match, and it wasn't, and it's also California. So, I mean, if it was Texas, it might have been a little bit different, but it was like everybody was very much into the match, and it didn't matter like who was what. Yes, there was a lot of innuendos. There's a lot of things that you could take, and names, and you could there was a lot of narratives that were created based off of that. And yeah, you can create that narrative and it'd be a good article to read, etc. But that doesn't take away this man's talent and multifacetedness as far as being an artist on top of that, and being a business person, and doing the podcast and being multifaceted, which is, as a wrestler today, in order to retire, if he wants to retire in his 40s, it's possible, because income. People who know me know I'm always talking about multiple streams of income. Like working one job in America, I can't speak to UK, ain't gonna cut it.
No different.
Social Security is not gonna be around when you old. So and just how he's carrying himself, and then character wise, there's so many more things to him. Where Jade, because she was green, didn't have. So I think it's just more of a timing of when. Can Tony botch this up? Yes, because we're all human. People make mistakes, and that's part of life. But will he? No, because I think he's a true fan. He's a fan of wrestling, and I think he leads with that when he does the bookings.
It's interesting. I know, I can't remember if it was Swerve himself, but I saw a report saying that at one point Swerve was approached by WWE not too long ago, trying to bring him back to WWE. Obviously with the whole Hit Row thing and whatnot, a very similar, slightly watered down version of how Swerve is now. But of course, it was very much over. He worked in NXT very well. They brought over to SmackDown, obviously only within a few months, I guess.
Oh wait, sorry. I just want to help JD out. Sorry, because JD made a comment. Well, I did a Google search, JD. This is according to, I always like to notify my searches. It's according to the HAS.gov. So that's an American government. They said in 2021, there's 40.1 million people in the United States. They were non-Hispanic Black, which means it's actually less than what I said. It's 12.1% of the total population is Black. So again, I'm not saying that that is a dictator. I'm just saying that, yes, I would love to see all women on a promotion. And you know what I'm going to do? I'll either create my own promotion or support WOW or support Shine or support promotions that have an all women wrestling thing. So I'm not saying, oh, well, there's only 1%, so we should only have one. Just at the end of the day, we can't have everything we want. If you wanted an all Black promotion, there are plenty of other there's plenty of other promotions that have just Black folks in it. So
Very
we can't demand that. And what happens to the rest of the audience who's not Black?
Very true. I'm glad you backed up with facts as well. Mick, so we're talking about Swerve and WWE still wanting him. We can see how WWE has changed just a little bit since Swerve was last there, in terms of how people are pushed and all the rest of it. Even again, another report I saw the last couple of days is apparently Triple H is trying to dispel this whole notion that, you know, non-white or Mexican and Japanese wrestlers can't make it in the WWE. Do you feel as though there would still be, you know, Triple H is kind of, you know, still keeping his eye on Swerve to see whether he can poach him at any point?
Yeah, I mean, they keep their eye on everyone. They want the best of the best. And you know, right now, Swerve's doing the right thing. You know, the allegations is that Swerve snitched when WWE came knocking and asking about his contract.
Yeah.
TK, hey, like these guys are doing this, like whilst others like Andrade and Malachi Black entertained the call allegedly. But I think Swerve knew that he owed himself this opportunity. You know, he could take it. The chance was there, that he could do better than maybe Hit Row, where he would probably be expected to carry the others respectfully, and not to be, you know, so expressive on his own. A part of me thinks as well that Swerve was somewhat underutilized in NXT as well. There could have been a lot more for Swerve, despite I know he won the North American title. Did he win the Cruiserweight title at one point as well?
No, just North America.
Yeah, he was in and around that scene anyway. But yeah, I feel, you know, maybe he feels a bit underwhelmed even with the NXT side of things. So yeah, he wanted to go out on his own, and he done the right thing. And WWE are right to still want to keep tabs on these kind of guys. I mean, even switching gears to Ricky Starks and Big Bill in that ladder match, which was absolutely great. And then literally the next day, Jade Cargill was here posting Instagram stories, training with Ricky Starks, big Cody Rhodes mural in the back because they were in the Nightmare Factory. I said, the next day, you lot couldn't have waited to post this. Like, and you know, it's all smoke and mirrors, it's all fun and games. Ricky Starks, we all know his contract is up next year as well, when it probably looks like he might follow suit and go over to WWE, where friends like Jade and Cody are as well. Yeah, it's just all this is it. This is the roundabout of it all, and trying to make stars not just, and like you're saying, not just from these the typical backgrounds that we've known and grown as wrestling fans. Is to show that people of all kinds of different abilities, different backgrounds can do it. TK has just rolled out the red carpet for Will Ospreay, you know, pre-contract, ahead of when his contract is due to expire. Nothing says I want this guy more than something like that. And of course, they're in bed with New Japan, so it probably made it a bit easier to do all of that kind of stuff anyway. But and that's a British guy. That's someone flying the flag for us. Kind of made him a big deal over there in the States now. So yeah, we've got to prove that our companies is more. It's not just back in the days, the territories, and we just want a guy from this state or this area to do well and come through. It's a global marketplace now. So yeah, you got to make everyone feel welcome.
Yeah, and it's not. What were you gonna say?
No, go for it.
And even with the Will Ospreay of it all, right? You know, to me, it was like, oh, this is great, but I wasn't excited as the person next to me. I would have been super excited if it was Mercedes, but again, you can't satisfy everybody. And you know what I'm saying? Just because I wasn't excited doesn't mean that the whole product is ish. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people, I think, the good and bad thing about social media and giving everybody voices, everybody thinks that they're all important. All their thoughts and all their opinions and all this stuff matters. And at the end of the day, it's just kind of like, okay, you might not have liked that. That's fine. That's okay to not to be happy. You don't have to be satisfied all the time. If we were all satisfied with chocolate cake, we'd all be 600 pounds. Like, sometimes you have to just like not eat the cake. Like, It's okay. That was a terrible reference, and I already know, but go with me. And then also, sorry too, I love to correct, like, because I don't want to be corrected over the next correction. I also double checked and with the census for the U.S. That article that I quoted was incorrect. According to the census, which they take every couple of years, it's 14.2%, which is still not 30 or 50.
No different, right?
So, but again, just in case somebody comes, I've now checked with the U.S. Census, which is they're the ones who actually do all the counting, and it's 14.2%. So again, still, not saying whether or not it makes a difference, but
fair enough. Mex looks like he's checking something. You're checking the UK one, bro.
No.
Mex just mentioned Ricky Starks, another man who is climbing the ladder, and I said that on purpose because, of course, Mex Starks and Big Bill retained their AEW World Tag Team Championships in that four-way ladder match, which also involved the House of Black, LFI, and FTR, all the acronyms, all the abbreviations in there. What does this now mean for Starks and Big Bill? As we also saw as well at Full Gear, that the Golden Jets, namely Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega, defeated the Young Bucks and are now #1 contenders for that for the tag team titles. Now, there's no immediate match set up, but they have the chance to cash in on that opportunity whenever they're ready. Will Starks and Big Bill still be champions and find themselves facing the Golden Jets at some point? Mex, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're going to beat Omega and Chris Jericho. They'll find a way to beat them. I'm here for the ride, but I'm not really like super invested. Maybe because I just can't necessarily see a direction of their tag team title run.
Right.
I don't know if this is again part of a ploy to keep Ricky happy, give him something to do. But yeah, I think they'll beat the Golden Jets. Maybe even by interference. The Young Bucks seem to not be very happy right now, despite them claiming that they're stepping away from AEW. Don't know what that's about, but
that was weird.
It's very weird. And Brandon Cutler announcing it like they're stepping away from BTE, their YouTube channel. They're stepping away from wrestling. I'm thinking, what is going on here with these lot?
Right.
We'll see. But yeah, Ricky Starks and Big Bill. I think it's been a bit of one of these mismatch kind of pairings, but it's worked out for both men. Keeping them busy. Really good match. Really good ladder match. And yeah, we'll just see where they go from here.
For sure. TK, what are your thoughts in terms of where Ricky Starks is now? Is it kind of like a prelude to a Ricky Starks being in that same conversation as the next AEW World Champion?
I mean, he was in the conversation for a minute. And then, and I think people were definitely up in arms when nothing really manifested. And there was a really interesting thing that they said in the scrum where they're like, and it's so funny because I think a week before that, I was getting upset about it. It's like, well, why as a tag team do we need we need merch together and we need a name and we need matching outfits and stuff like that. And last week I was like, I can't stand these tag teams who are, they're just individuals. And again, he made me like, think about that. They are just two single competitors who do a great job together. They get it, and they're now tag team champions. And there's nothing wrong with that because we've often seen two people be slapped together before, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, meaning wrestling wise. Like, let's not talk about the visual. It means like they just couldn't get it together wrestling wise. Because to be a tag team and be that good, and to be a champion and to be champions speaks a lot. Because you have people like the Usos or the New Day or the Young Bucks who've been together forever. Of course, it's easy for them to tag, like they could do that in their sleep. But people to come together to do it and have it make sense and have them work off each other, that's a totally different thing. So with that being said, I also feel like one of two things could happen. if you are going to put two people who are singles competitors together as a tag team and they are the tag team champions, I'd like them to be a tag team for a longer period of time. You know what I'm saying? Like, at least let us remember it. You know what I'm saying? Versus, okay, they won. Now they're no longer together. Okay, you guys forget about that. That was just a moment, like, you know, Men in Black. Like, you don't remember that. But I also feel like as the tag team, because they're individual competitors, why can't they also go for other championships? Makes for an interesting wrinkle. And I think Ricky Starks would be a good candidate for that. So, you know, that's where I see the possibility. I don't get the vibe that they're gonna do it though. There's been a lot of talks about the whole WWE of it all. I don't get the vibe that they're going to do it. I get the vibe that he might have to go somewhere else, and then they'll figure it out. Like, oh yeah, and then because again, with AEW and WWE or Impact or somewhere else, you can't hate on the wrestler for going somewhere else. And it's also okay if they go back. Like, how many times have people left Impact, went somewhere else, and came back to Impact, and it's fine. Like, it feels like it's very tribal with like WWE and AEW. And yes, we see the pettiness go on Twitter between the big companies, but that doesn't mean you as a wrestling fan, as a fan of wrestling, have to subscribe to the tribalism as well.
Right. Very true, very true. And that's what's interesting about this whole thing with Ricky Starks is, you know, he was on this trajectory when CM Punk was still there, when Collision all started, and you felt as though he was gonna be the next AEW World Champion, or maybe the real World Champion at some point. But now it's kind of like, yes, he's AEW Tag Team Champion, and on paper he's now be, you know, FTR and all these other great teams who have been tag team champions before, whether it's in AEW or somewhere else. But there's something about it that just doesn't feel correct to me. It just feels as though it is a bit of maybe pleasing Ricky Starks, or not necessarily knowing what to do with him really, and just kind of, it's like a bit of a placeholder for me when it comes to him as the tag team champion. I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't feel like it has to last long. I don't think I'll be upset if they were to lose it like at some point this week or something, or, you know, in the next few weeks or something like that. But at the same time, it would still then mean that they have to do something more with Ricky Starks, elevate him, you know, the next couple of steps at least, for me to feel as though his year has made sense, basically. It kind of just feels as though, all right, what do we do next? We don't know yet. Well, let's wait it out and then we'll figure it out and then do whatever. So that's going to be very interesting. Moving on, we spoke so much about Swerve. We've got to blast through so many other subjects that we want to talk about. But keeping with tag teams, we saw the Street Profits win a triple threat tag team match against the Brawling Brutes and Pretty Deadly, and have the opportunity to face the Judgment Day for the Undisputed Tag Team Championships. I believe that match is going to take place next week on SmackDown. This week even, sorry. So just before Survivor Series. Is this well timed? Is there point to this right now? And that's not because of the Street Profits themselves, but more so obviously what the Judgment Day are dealing with, and obviously then having to face, you know, having to have their War Games match literally 24 hours later. TK, what are your thoughts in terms of the timing of this opportunity for the Street Profits?
I mean, I think we're still trying to figure out where they, like, at one point we knew what the Street Profits were about. And I feel like they're in this thing right now where we're not quite sure. Like, they're supposed to like kind of be heelish, but they haven't necessarily crossed over yet. So I'm still a little confused. And this is the good thing. And again, I'm just dying to get into anybody's writer's room, not to be hired, just to see how it all goes down. Because I truly, if I were in that room, I would like say, okay, well, give me y'all's ideas, because I don't know, because this thing is a year-round thing. It's not like, okay, we have 12 episodes, let's do 12 episodes. So yeah, at this point, I have no clue. It's kind of one of those things like, if this was like a family situation, another bad analogy, I'd be like, y'all sit this one out. Let's reconvene in 2024, and let's just really ponder what we're gonna do. That's kind of where my head's at. Like, let's take a time out. Y'all want to go on vacation? Go on vacation. Just, you know, let's simmer a little bit. So that's not much of an answer, but that's where I'm at as far as the thought process. Like, we knew what they were about NXT. We knew when they came to the main roster, and now it's just kind of like it's in this weird transition period that I have no idea. Like, I'm glad it's on TV, but
right. It was nice to see them win a match, and it's nice to be able to say that they've got a tag team opportunity, but it still kind of doesn't make sense where they're at. Doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. But here's a question for you, Mex. Do you think that there's this small possibility that they could go and beat the Judgment Day? And I'm saying that only based on the fact that there's a possibility someone from the opposing team, the War Games match, could possibly get in the way and cost the Judgment Day the tag team championships. Is that a possibility?
I guess it's always possible, but it doesn't make the Judgment Day look good going into this big match the following night. It could be as a means to maybe separate the titles from Judgment Day. Maybe Judgment Day go on and get their win back in the War Games match. But yeah, it just feels like, you know, that even that with the whole idea is a stretch. Like, Judgment Day probably retain. You're trying to build, or what we think you're trying to build, this new faction or whatever they are with Bobby Lashley, and now they're probably going to just take a loss here for what reason. Yeah, man, it might be time to simmer down and go back to the drawing board and just think, what are we doing here? We've got B-Fab here, you know, trying to get a word with Bobby Lashley as well, and it's like, what is going on here? These don't even have a name. They're not even officially recognized as a collective right now. It's just Lashley and the Prophets or whatever. Like, yeah, we've taken too long to get to any climax of this story. Just anything. Like I made this analogy time ago. This is just a book that has all the pages ripped out and just stuffed back into the book with in no order. Some pages are upside down. 10 is at the back of the page, and the first page is number 120. Like, I don't know what's happening here. You just told us these guys are together. And 1 minute they're being blasted, and 1 minute they're not. And the whole story is just kind of disorganized. But because of the people involved, the fans are clamoring to give it a chance, and they want to see where it's going. But it's only so long you're going to be afforded that grace.
Yeah, and here's the issue that I have with this whole thing. It's like, you know, when we first kind of saw the inkling and, you know, Bobby approached them the first time, we were so excited. It kind of all just made sense. As much as we didn't necessarily want the Hurt Business 2.0, it just still felt as though this story is easy to write out. You know what I mean? This is going to be so easy. That's kind of what we're going to get. It doesn't have to be Hurt Business, but we're going to get that same type of thing as well. And as you said, there have been so many things that have kind of just happened in the wrong order. And them having this opportunity for the tag team championships, again, sounds nice to be able to say it, but it's like, it's not going to amount to anything. It's not going to amount to anything at all. It's not going to make them look good. It's even pointless for the Judgment Day at this point as well, especially with War Games the next night. What then happens? Someone's going to get involved in, you know, from the other team or whatever. Like, what is the point? And then on top of that, we had this whole blow up of all the tag teams on Raw, who are also asking for a tag team opportunity, and they'll get theirs the following night or next week on Monday, or something along those lines. Then you had Adam Pearce and what's his name again? I forget his name. Nick Aldis, that's the one. Them two having their little conversations. I'm like, will that then interfere with the Street Profits opportunity? Like this, it's just confusion at this point with everything in the tag team division in the WWE, and of course with the Street Profits. So we're still waiting for this story to make sense. For a story to even be possibly.
Maybe it's the confusion, because we have the paper, we have the PLE coming up, and like I think I referenced at the beginning of the show where, you know, oftentimes we have it all scripted in our heads. It's like, okay, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And maybe the fact that we have no idea what's going to happen, and they're throwing us all these swerves or curves, it's going to be like, that makes the PLE even better because it's like, look, we have no, like, this is supposed to happen on Monday, but we have this, like, so what's going to happen then? Like, we can't make the mathing. And sometimes that's okay. Like, sometimes not knowing, because we're also in a society where we binge watch a lot of things. Like, a show comes out and they give us all 10 episodes. Like, we no longer can wait a week for the show to come out. Myself included. I am that person. It's like, I'll just wait. Just tell me when they're all done, because I'm not waiting. The suspense is killing me. So like, we can't wait. And so maybe it's kind of they're taking it back, and they're like, okay, well, you know, we're not gonna wait a week, but there's something that's gonna be happening for this PLE that we can't predict because we can't figure out what the tea leaves are saying right now.
But I think for me, the difference comes when it's fine not knowing. But I think it's something that we said last week. I can't remember what we were talking about, but we said last week how, you know, it's great when there are so many options. I think it's the whole thing with Trick Williams and the Who Done It, and, you know, and the whole thing with Carmelo and all the rest of it. Like, it's nice that there are so many options. Whereas with this whole thing with the Street Profits, I don't know what the options are. Like, it should have played out. It should have made sense, but it's not making any sense. And it's not because, you know, it's great that we don't know. It's actually confusing that we don't know. When there's different options and different ways it can go, that's when the whole not knowing is exciting. I think for me with this, it's just like, I just don't know what the options actually are, to be honest. You know what I mean? They were there, but they've disappeared, and I don't know how you get back to something decent. Right. This is a maze with no exit at this point. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at tall hedges right now. You know what I mean? It's one of those things. It's one of those things. But moving away from SmackDown, but we're keeping the WWE. We saw last week, and it feels so weird to talk about this today. It was last week, and I talked about this on WWT the following night. So it's so weird to talk about this now. It feels like it was 3 weeks away. But on last week's NXT, we saw Trick Williams win his match to be entered into the what's the name of the match again?
The Iron Survivor
match, of course. And then we saw an upset victory. I was saying this to Gerard on WWT on last week Wednesday. As soon as I saw the conclusion of this match, I thought of him and Mex straight away, because on the show we were like, yeah, we already know Roxanne's winning. Boom! Lash Legend picks up the win, albeit by interference from Kiana James. But Lash Legend is heading into the Women's Iron Survivor match. Mex, what was your reaction when you saw the conclusion to this match?
I was so happy. I was so happy. I couldn't believe it, because like I thought it's like Roxanne. They love Roxanne. You know, she's brilliant. Like deservedly so. Like, and Lash has been really putting in work with Metaphor character-wise, not so much in the opportunities on TV. I know she's been doing a lot of level up stuff with Jakara Jackson, but yeah, not so much on TV recently. So when I saw this, I thought, it's a bit of a foregone conclusion. You know, they threw out Jakara relatively early. I said, here we go. Not knowing that another black woman would come to her rescue,
right?
And yeah, it was brilliant, and it's the way she sold it afterwards as well. Like, she had won the whole thing. Like, she was so happy. Metaphor was so happy. That them lot together are just brilliant TV.
Amazing, yeah,
very enjoyable to watch. So yeah, she's in this match, and it'll be very interesting to see the rest of the field and where they go once it's all sorted in December. But didn't see it coming. Was very happy by the result.
TK, what are your thoughts on Lash Legend and her chances? Obviously, we don't know the full lineup of the ladies that will feature in the match, but what do you think her chances could possibly be going into the Iron Survivor match?
I mean, I feel like in this case, we know what her chances are. I feel like, you know, she's not going to be coming up on top. However,
I mean, we said that about a qualifying match, so you know.
True, but true. And you know, I'll eat my word. Like I'm not above saying I was wrong. Like I'm not.
Yeah, of course.
But I feel I do like the fact of how they're no longer letting, because remember there's one point they would just have people like they would sign people to WWE and then they just put them out there and they would just sink. You know, it's like figure it out. Like it's almost like throwing the baby in the pool. I don't think they do that anymore. Back in the day, that's how you used to teach kids how to swim. So it's kind of like I love her progression where they're now still having, it's kind of like what they're doing with Jade too. And I mean, we're not necessarily getting used to Jade, but we're very much aware, okay, she hasn't been in the ring, but we're seeing her in all these places. So it's kind of one of those things like, okay, you're seeing her, you're getting used to her personality. She's getting to develop her character. All right, here's her wrestling. And now you can really get behind her versus, oh, who's this new person on the screen? So I really like the development of that. So as far, I mean, I don't see it, but I'll be happy to see it. So I really love what NXT is doing. And I think, I don't know, I wish I was in the writer's room because what we've been seeing on NXT is kind of what we saw on Raw last night. So I'm wondering if there's like a bit of crossover as far as how or is this just a one-off because more games is happening? So we'll see.
Very true. The whole crossover thing is nice, but I'm even just in general with WWE. Obviously, you know, it's been mentioned, but I think it's definitely very much flourishing right now. The whole new Triple H regime in terms of the creative and who's being pushed, how they're being pushed, the crossover stuff that we're seeing. Some people from NXT going on, you know, appearing on Raw and vice versa, and SmackDown and all the rest of it. In terms of Lash Legend and her chances in the Iron Survivor. Yes, I know we got it wrong last week, but I can't see her coming out on, you know, as the winner. But at the same time, I think it says an absolute huge amount. We've just heard being featured in the match itself. I think she's going to play a big part in some way, or at least be able to show herself very strong in that match as well. So that's going to be interesting. We could talk about the whole stuff with Trick as well, but we ain't got time for that, unfortunately. Our time has gone.
That was an upset as well for me personally. I didn't see him beating Joe Coffey, and I was happy to see that as well. So
very, very true, very true. And of course, it adds. You know, we saw the reaction from Trick and all the rest of it, so it adds to that whole storyline as well. I'm going to ask this question actually real quick. Did Lexus King like actually say that he attacked Trick Williams?
I was thinking this as well, you know. I don't think he even he didn't allude to it. They kind of stuck it on him like it was you, and he didn't say yes or he didn't say no, but he just made it seem like I'm a dodgy guy. Like, watch out for me. But he didn't admit to anything, bro. So yeah, I don't know. It's
and then commentary never followed it up with what did Lexus just say or anything like that. So it's like. Interesting. I guess we'll find out later. Say again.
Yeah.
Another wrinkle for us to.
Yeah, of course. And this is the one that makes sense because there's so much that can happen. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. It has me invested in wanting to watch NXT every single week, and NXT's had me like that for a good few months now. So you know, I think that show is definitely the consistency of NXT. It's kind of like. It's found its identity, whereas other places, other shows, Raw, AEW, would be Dynamite or whatever else. Collision kind of had it at one point, but lost it again. But they found their identity on NXT. They know what they're supposed to do, what they're about. And it's not, you know, I'm saying it's consistency and not necessarily the best show, but it's consistency because they've got it correct in terms of who they are, what their identity is, and all the rest of it. So again, man, I'll be waiting for NXT to get started in a couple of hours, and I'll be very heavily invested. With that all said, this is the end of our show. I hope you guys have been invested in this one today. You can find us here as always every Tuesday live on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you will also see when this guy Mex puts out all his reactions to WWE, AEW, and anything else in between. You can also follow Mex on X and on Instagram at WrestleManiac UK. Don't forget to find Mex as well on the Wrestling's channel, also on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe to follow the man them. TK, TK, where can we find you? How do we keep up with you and WWE?
I really wish I can code switch a la West Indian on like when I want to, but I really can't. I only can do it when I'm amongst the people talking amongst the people. But when I want to say in my head, just then it calculates like, girl, you can't code switch. It's not. So
it's an hourly thing for me. It's crazy.
Yeah, I do it in my head, but for some reason it can't. So, anyways, sorry to go off that. It resonated with me a lot. It took me back home. But anywho, you can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. Make sure you check out Fight TV today. We have an interview dropping with Renee Paquette. Really great interview. We're talking about Soraya. We're talking about her producing, or we're talking about being Canadian. Because it's Canada, especially Toronto, is just so diverse. So we talked about things with that, and being so close to like the motherland, like going back and forth, and then what that's like. So a really great interview. We also have another interview dropping this week with the WWE superstar, and just confirmed we have another big interview happening next week as well with some of the people we were actually talking about today. So excitement. So you can follow all that and more on www.talkpod.com. All the things.
Amazing. This has been our show, guys. We expect to see you again this time next week. Thank you for joining us. Peace out.
Peace.